Hey everyone, Hunter Hodes here, back with another, a somber episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. The Penguins lose again 6-3 to the Buffalo Sabres. That is now 6 losses in a row for this hockey team. We're going to go into everything that transpired from this game, how the same issues just continue to repeat themselves, what the solutions are for this team. Going to get into the core. If Mike Sullivan's on the hot seat, can a trade be made? All that stuff, plus so much more coming up right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. And as I started Tuesday's episode, that is the way to describe today's episode as well. Penguins, they jump out to another lead, 1-0, courtesy of Jason Zucker with that beautiful little salute to Jaromir Jagr. Josh Archibald gets his third goal of the season. They get it to they give up a goal late in the second period. They get it right back early in the third. And yet again, another third period collapse for this team. This is the fourth game this season that they have blown a multi-goal lead. We're only at game 11. At this point, this has been such a massive issue for this team this year where they're just taking periods off. And honestly, the first 40 minutes of that game, I thought the Penguins were playing fine. They were, up 1-0 going into the first intermission. They played really well, I found, that first period. They took it to Buffalo. Second period, they mostly played fine. Gave up that goal late in the first or late in the second with about a minute remaining. If they were able to get it to the intermission up to, maybe the third period's a bit different. Who knows? But they gave up that goal. They got it right back, which was nice. Now you just got to hold on for 19, 20 minutes. And they weren't able to do that. Stupid penalties, couple bad goals from Casey DeSmith, and it was just another collapse. And that's now 6 in a row. And again, this segment is just basically me. I feel like I'm just going to be repeating myself during the segment. It's the same issues game after game after game after game. It really is. Who's on the ice for a bunch of the goals tonight again? Oh, wouldn't you know? It's Brian Dumoulin, who continues to play top pairing minutes for some unknown reason. Casey DeSmith, not good enough as well. Played fine through 40 minutes, but look at the second and the third goals. I understand that Owen Power had a really nice fake slap shot, but you're telling me that Casey DeSmith is on the other side of the net and he bit that hard from a shot from a pass, that's 50 feet out? That's terrible goaltending. The Tage Thompson one, he bit hard on that pass as well. Well over half the net is open. That was the 3-2 goal. I kind of went backwards a little bit, but that was the 3-2 goal, the Thompson one, wide open net. And it's just like, what are we doing here? I just don't understand why, that's the kind of goaltending that the Penguins are getting. And this is back-to-back nights now. Back-to-back nights that, if this team is able to just get a freaking save, maybe it's different. I know the team has issues, but bad goaltending has doomed them 2 games in a row and a lot more during this stretch. And that is a major problem right now. Yes, if you want to get into Brian Dumoulin, we can do that. He stinks. He's at a point where I've been seeing this take on the timeline. I'm close to there. Not well. People have been saying this is like the Jack Johnson 2.0. I don't think anyone gets as bad as Jack Johnson, excuse me. He was on his other world level of bad. Dumoulin is bad. He's not that bad. Some people say he's Rob Scuderi. Late Rob Scuderi, of course. He's bad. I don't know if he's that bad, but it's getting, I think, to that territory. It could potentially be there within the next month or something like that. I think at this point, the solution to that problem for me, the Penguins aren't going to scratch him, right? That's not what the Penguins are going to do. But I think in order for Mike Sullivan, because he's going to have to change something up with the lines, and I'll get to Mike Sullivan as a whole a little bit later. But what I think they need to do is move him off the top pairing, give him the POJ treatment. And what I mean by that is you're sheltering him. You can play him with Jan Ruta, give him 12 to 15 minutes a night, see if maybe that gets him back on his game. And then if it does, okay, maybe you can keep him down there, but also maybe try to increase his minutes again. See if he continues to have more confidence. And then if he's able to go to the top pairing and magically play better, that'll obviously be great. But I know he's not going to get scratched. So I think that's what the Penguins need to do with him there. Obviously, you're all going to ask me, well, what should they do with Chris Letang, right? Well, in my opinion right now, I did not think this way going into the season. I think you just put POJ up there. POJ has been really good these last few games. I thought he had another really strong game tonight, was good against the Bruins as well. I think he's really coming into his own through these first 11 games. Again, I don't think he's ever going to be this like outstanding offensive defenseman, but he's going to be someone who's steady on the back end, plays good defense, can go from defense to offense quickly, and is someone who I don't think is going to hurt you that often. At least that's how he's playing right now. So I'm really encouraged by the way he's playing. I think some early returns when they had POJ up with Letang a couple of years ago were good until it turned to crap, but it's also been a couple of years. So I think I would potentially be down to try that. At least that is how I see it right now. You got to do something about the deep pairings. And some of the other defensemen that they got this offseason, including Jeff Petrie, he's been bad. I think that's honestly the best way to say it. If you listen to the podcast back in July when they made the moves to get rid of Matheson, who's hurt right now, to bring in DeSmith for John Marino, I was all for them because you know what? I felt like they needed to be better on defense. I thought this was going to help both offensively, especially with Petrie, if he continued to play the way he did under Marty St. Louis, and especially with Jan Ruta, with how good he played. That was where I was going. Yes, with Jan Ruta, with how he played in Tampa Bay, and then with DeSmith, he needed a change of scenery, right? Well, so far Jan Ruta has been fine. DeSmith's down in the minors because of their cap situation, and Petrie's been awful. This is another game where he takes a stupid penalty, and it's just like I feel like I'm saying that on a nightly basis at this point. He just can't stop taking penalties, and his play offensively has been bad. I mean, I saw in the preseason that he wasn't looking super good. So I was kind of like, well, it's preseason, right? No one really cares about that. But so far in the regular season, I'm kind of taking the L on this because I was very here for those moves. But John Marino, I think, has a top 5 game scorer in the entire NHL right now. He's looking like a completely different player in New Jersey, and kudos to him. I'm really happy that he's turning it around. I don't know if he was ever going to turn it around in Mike Sullivan's system. But that most of the defensive moves right now are looking bad. And when you couple that up with a horrendous bottom 6, which is what you are seeing right now, boom, there's your struggles. And along with bad goaltending and the team not being able to hold leads. I think the people that are honestly blaming the core players and the head coach for all these struggles, they cannot see the forest from the trees. I will die on that hill. It is not Sidney Crosby's fault. It's not Evgeny Malkin's fault. It's not Chris Letang's fault and Jake Gensel's fault, that a lot of the lesser players in the lineup are just flat out stinking this year. What has Brock McGinn done this year? Crickets. What has Ryan Poehling done for a good chunk of the season? Crickets. Josh Archibald, okay, had a goal tonight, 3 goals already. That's good. Other than that, not really doing too much. I mean, Drew O'Connor's been fine. He's only been up here for a couple of games. What's Kasperi Kapanen done this year? Crickets. I mean, y'all see what I'm going here? I mean, Dan Heinen, decent start. What's he done since then? Crickets. It's a bad unit. I'll put the same with Jeff Carter. Crickets. It's a bad unit. And, I think it's something that, I think Ron Hextall made his bed with it over the offseason. He's going to have to live with it. At the end of the day, he's going to have to live with the mess that he made, and there's not a lot of easy answer now. This team has no cap space. It's going to have to be dollar in, dollar out if they want to make a move. And yeah, I mean, things look a little bleak right now, to say the least. But coming up In the second segment, we're going to go into more about Mike Sullivan and why I don't think he is going to be fired or should be fired. And I'll try to come up with some solutions for this team to stop the bleeding. But before we get that, so can we pause the pod for a second? All right, we're paused here because great. You got to try this. And I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors, cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, and coconut brownie topper. White chocolate peppermint granola as well. It's built to take on a granola bar, so it's more filling and still insanely tasty. And candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious food. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built. Just sink your teeth into that first bite and it'll change your life forever. And I'm not kidding. There will be a time where you try these new built flavors and a magical, wonderful time afterwards. You're probably wondering which new flavors my favorite. Well, it's kind of an unanswerable question right now. I have about 5 or 6 that I do really enjoy. So you can get 15% off your order right now by using the code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. If you want to try one of those new flavors, again, that's 15% off your order right now by using the code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. All right, I'm back here in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. So let's get into the whole Mike Sullivan conundrum here. I've been seeing a lot of takes on the Twitterverse. You go on to the Penguins subreddit. And Reddit's just a really weird place to begin with. And people are calling for his head. And I get it. Usually when this kind of loss early in the season, this is the kind of loss where either someone gets fired or someone gets traded. For the Penguins, it's going to be the latter if there is something that happens. I know Ron Hextall is kind of a patient person, but in my opinion, they're not going to fire Mike Sullivan. And you're probably going to ask me, well, why? Like, who cares if he just signed that deal? Well, Fenway Sports Group obviously does. He's here for the next 5 seasons, and he also just got extended 2 to 3 months ago. They are not going to make that kind of decision. From everything that I've read, from what I've heard whispers about, the Fenway Sports Group, ownership group, I just said that twice in like 2 seconds. They absolutely love him. Like they cannot get enough of Mike Sullivan. So he's not going to go anywhere. That said, can he be a bit better with some of his lineup decisions? Absolutely. 100%. I was touching on this, of course, in the first segment. Take Brian Dumoulin off the top pairing. Also, get Rickard Rakell back up to the Crosby line. I know he's been flip-flopping with Rust and Rakell, but give Rust back to Gino. I thought they were working really well together. I think the bottom 6 is what it is at this point. I mean, Teddy Bluger is set to come back, I think, on Saturday, at least according to Ron Hextall on the GM show with Josh Getzoff today. So I think that will obviously be a big help. Other defensive pairings, I don't really know what you do to change those up. Again, you put POJ up there with Letang. Do you put Pettersson up there? But I don't really know if he's going to get I don't know how he's going to fare with top pairing minutes. The people that just say, well, change the lines, do something, sometimes that's easier said than done because, there's just, when you look at the bottom 6 right now, there's just really not a lot you can do. Are you going to put Danton Heinen in your top 6? No, that's not going to happen. Are you going to move him down to your 4th line? Do you scratch Kasperi Kapanen? I don't know. Like they're still battling a couple of injuries at forward. So I don't know what the answer is there. I'm sure he's just going to try to throw players into a blender and just take them out one by one or something. But, I really don't think that the issues right now, it stems from coaching. I think obviously, again, there can be roster lineup decisions that he can be better with. But from like an X's and O's and a system standpoint, the team is playing his system. You've seen it even during the 6-game losing streak. The problem is once they get up, they just go back to making losing plays and they're not taking care of the puck and they're just playing like a lottery hockey team. And that's what happens late in these games where they're just getting crushed, especially against the Bruins on Tuesday. You're up 5-2 late in the second period, 5-3, 12 minutes into the third period. And even though you're blowing them out of the water in the third period, you go back to making silly mistakes. You're not killing 6-on-5s. Tonight, the penalty kill gave up another goal. It's basically a goal per game at this point when this team becomes shorthanded. You're not getting saves. You're not forechecking hard enough when the game is close. And I think all of that just comes back to a lack of effort for this team. I just don't think they're giving it their all right now. Obviously, I know it's still early, but 4-6 and right now, like we're like what 4-6-1. It's just it's not good enough. It's not. No, excuse me. No, 4-5-1. Basically, I think it is for four. Yeah, one of those two. It's not good enough, and the players are going to have to do a lot better if they're going to snap out of this losing streak. Because honestly, they should have won both these games. Sorry, they should have had 4 out of 4 points in both these games. There is no reason for them to lose both of these games. But when you're a team right now that's down this bad, and you are just making losing plays, that's what a losing team looks like. When you've lost the will to win, you make stupid plays. And that is what you all are seeing right now with this team. Heck, late third period tonight, right? 6-on-5 situation. The puck's going down to the corner. Should be an easy icing call. Chris Letang I'm gliding back. Not really going to try. He's getting outskated by Zemgus Girgensons. That's a career 4th-line player. I'm like, are we for real right now? Like, I just like that kind of effort right now. And I loved Letang's pass for the Gensel's goal to make it 3-1 early in the third period. I think that was the best play he's made in the past few games. But that effort right there, that sums up, honestly, the Penguins' problems. It's just people not trying hard enough. It's soft, as Michel Therrien likes to say. And I hate calling players lazy. I think it's such a cop-out just because you see it thrown around so often. And a lot of times people are just like talking out of their butt and stuff. But that was pure laziness from Chris Letang. And it's just like, you got to try a hell of a lot better in that situation. There's another play right before that, just a couple minutes before that, defenseman comes down, about to tee up a shot, and they're not putting it to the net. And they were trying for the pass. It goes off Eric Comrie's pad. And it's like, just rip that on net and see what happens in that situation. And, they didn't. And they're just like, those are the kind of plays. Again, that's another kind of play where they're just overthinking it. And, maybe the sticks are just too tight right now, but they got to stop the bleeding at some point. They're obviously going to win games again at some point. They're not going to keep losing all these games. It's just, I think, the worst losing streak they've had under Mike Sullivan. I don't think they've ever had a 7-game losing streak under him. So I think hopefully that bodes well going into the Saturday's home game against Seattle. But things are potentially bleak coming up. After this home game against Seattle, 6 of the next 7 games are on the road. This is a wake-up call for this team. You can't just you can't make the play. I'm going to say this. You can't make the playoffs in November, but you can damn sure miss them. And if they continue to not get points during this whole month, they're going to be up a creek going into December. I'll say that. So, that's, I think, what I have to say for this segment about Mike Sullivan and some other topics I wanted to discuss. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into some of the core players. I guess we'll also touch on some positives that I take away tonight, because I don't want this whole episode to just be a bunch of me spewing negative nonsense. So look around for that coming up in this final segment. All right, I'm back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So I know there's not many positives. I know I've just been probably, just being a negative Nancy, but hey, I got to be objective with this team when all the time, even when they're on a 6-game losing streak. Jake Guentzel, great goal to make it 3-1 early in the third period. Beautiful pass from Chris Letang. Again, I think that's one of the best plays he's made all season. Josh Archibald, really nice job to drive to the net to get that second goal of the game. It's his third goal of the season. I got to say, did not think he would already have 3 goals in 11 games, but that's kind of been the player that he was throughout his career. I guess that's like the big redeeming quality of him. He usually is like a 13 goal per 82 game guy. Right now, 22 goal per 82 game guy. Is that sustainable, guys? No, it's not. It's not sustainable at all. So, but still, nice to see him get that goal. Jason Zucker, love seeing him get another goal this season, did hit signature Jaromir Jagr salute, just because they were wearing the Robo Penguin jersey. I gotta say that Robo Penguin jersey looked awesome tonight. I know some people don't like it. For me, though, I think it looked incredible. Yes, they blew another lead with the Robo Penguin jersey. I thought this was going to be the night where, they break the curse, but no, it wasn't meant to be. That's for sure. I thought Sidney Crosby played well. I thought he was engaged. I thought he was winning puck battles. I thought, he was, his usual self. I thought Evgeny Malkin played fine, had a couple of weird turnovers, but had a really nice pass on that first goal by Jason Zucker. I don't really have a problem with his game right now. Thought Chris Letang had a really nice performance too. Obviously, I already talked about Jake Gensel. The core players are doing their thing right now. I mean, I think that's really all you can ask for with them. But, again, the rest of the lineup, they're not. And it's really weird when I go to Natural Stat Trick, and at 5v5, the Penguins held the Sabres to three high danger chances against at 5v5. If you go to all situations, the Sabres had 4 high danger chances all game, and they scored 6 goals. That just comes down to bad goaltending and, just bad team defense. So, it is a rare thing when you see a team beat you, when you have a 7-3 edge in high danger chances. 3 high danger chances in 60 minutes and you're giving up 6 goals. That's something else. The Penguins also controlled the expected goal share, 53.6%. They lost a little bit in the scoring chances and the shot attempts, but when you're controlling the expected goals and when you're controlling the high danger chances like that, usually you come out on the other side. The Penguins weren't able to tonight, and bad goaltending and bad PK and just giving up another blown lead cost them. So, again, where do they go from here? Just got to start learning how to win again. I said it on my Tuesday episode. I'm going to say it now. They have to start learning how to win. And I don't think I've ever said that in all the years I've watched this team and all the years I've been doing this podcast now. This is basically season 4 of this show. So, they got to take a long look in the mirror. They got to maybe have a players only meeting or something like that. And, it sounds like Sid, Gino, and Jake Gensel were saying the right things tonight, but that only goes so far. You can say all this stuff, but until you go out on the ice and prove it, doesn't mean jack crap to me. So, it's bad vibes right now. I think the whole entire city of Pittsburgh, it just needs a win just because of how awful the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Heck, the Pirates aren't even playing right now. Like, they might be the best team in the city, and the Penguins just barely, they just haven't won a game in so long at this point. So it's just bad vibes for the city. Again, they're not going to fire Mike Sullivan. The core players are going to play well, but when you screw up the bottom 6 and when your defensive moves aren't panning out the way you wanted them to through 11 games, Ron Hextall's made his bed. He's going to have to lie in it. And if they continue to struggle, I wonder if they make a general manager change. I truly wonder about that. And people have been in my mentions about that tonight too. It would make sense. Fenway Sports Group, that's not their guy. Obviously, they like Mike Sullivan a lot, and they had very glowing statements about him after they just signed him to an extension. But, if this continues, I think Hextall or Burke's days are numbered. I think they could get a new general manager in there, and I know it probably wouldn't look good because we're at late 2022. Hextall was hired early 2021, so it's been almost 2 years that he's been on the job, but he just hasn't done enough right now. Shrewd business to bring back the core and bring back Raquel and Brian Russ and stuff, but all of his other moves right now are not panning out the way he probably wanted them to. And usually in this kind of losing streak, someone has to be the fall guy or a trade has to be made. It's just which one of those things is going to come first if this continues. Obviously, I don't want this to continue, but these, again, like that loss tonight and a couple of these other losses, these are ones where you see big changes made. And I wouldn't be surprised if you start hearing some insiders, talk about some rumblings regarding the team and all that stuff. So we'll have to see. It's been a kind of a tale of 2 seasons for the Penguins, a 4-0-1 start followed by an 0-5-1 losing streak. So, 4-5-1, 4-5-1 start the season 4-5-2, whatever. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, 4-5-2 start to the season at this point. It's bad vibes. And, I've probably said the same thing about 20,000 times on this episode for you all, but, hopefully it'll be a little bit of a different case for my Thursday and Friday episodes for you all. We'll be previewing the game against Seattle. We'll be recapping that game next week. And, I will be in the building on November 15th. I can't lose that game. I mean, that's my 25th birthday, for God's sake. So, I know it's a rough time right now, but, to get your mind off it, go outside, take your dog for a walk, play some video games, make your favorite dish for dinner, spend some time with your significant other, something like that. I know the hockey team's playing bad, but, just try to get your mind off it. Better times are ahead with this team, I will say that. Right now, my prediction, they will make the playoffs at the end of this year. I'll put it out there for you all. That's my prediction. I think they will find a way to figure this stuff out. They will find a way to stop this bleeding. They stink right now. I understand that, but I do think they will figure out a way to right the ship. And I think they will make the playoffs by the end of the season. I will leave you all with that for today's episode. So I really appreciate all of you listening. Thank you all so much. Whether it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. You can also leave a review for the show if you haven't already either. Hopefully it's a positive review. But again, thank you all so much for listening. I'll be back with another episode for you all on Thursday.